Hello, everyone. It's Pyra. It's the Saturday Scuttlebutt show. Once again, I'm taping it early. Well, taping. Recording on my phone. There's no tape. My hair is a mess. It's a crazy week before Christmas, so that's why I figured, well, let's do this early, huh? Um, and I think my notes on my laptop I have made to 300%, so I can kind of read them without my reading glasses, and they're not that fuzzy. It's great being in your 40s, seriously. Anyways, so what did I do this week? Well, what I just did this afternoon is I shove things around so that I can lean on the table. What I did this afternoon was I went to my church hall and I decorated the photo booth. We're having our parish potluck tomorrow when I'm filming this, yesterday when I'm posting it. So this is actually, I guess, this third. I was going to say second, but no, the third time I've decorated the photo booth. So I will be flying some images of it over top. And yeah, it's always kind of fun. It turned out a little different than I had planned because I had some of that green foil cardstock that you get at Michael's. And I have a 2-inch hole punch. And I was like, I'm going to make some like shiny green polka dots. And that was what I thought Friday afternoon. And that was the last I thought about it. But what ended up happening was my friend who does a lot of organizing with events and whatnot at the hall had found those paper polka dot garlands, which those are actually pieces left over from a previous event where we had a whole bunch of those. So we had just enough to decorate the front, even, and it made up for the similar polka dot thing that I had planned, except I didn't actually have to make the polka dots. So that was awesome. And then the gold stuff is that wired mesh. You get it at Michael's. Some other ribbons and tulle, and some stuff from the dollar store and whatnot. So yeah, it's kind of great. And then after I think the photos I will be already showing will be details of the booth. And then afterwards, another friend, actually, I think she's one of the new office admins, came down and she actually had this fantastic Christmas themed photo backdrop. So we actually moved the thing across the hall, put up the backdrop. So this image is what it is actually going to look like, which is pretty awesome. So, and also that photo booth used to not be on wheels. It somehow got wheels in the last few months because I think they were using it for a school play or something. And that means it's so much easier to move. Oh, put wheels on everything, folks. You can get the locking wheels if you need it to not shift around, but oh, believe me, wheels are the greatest invention our species ever came up with. So put them on everything. Anyways, so there is that. Um, this morning, my embroidery group that I've belonged to since 2017 or 2018, 2017, I think. They had their Christmas potluck. I've been missing a whole bunch of the meetings this year. I haven't had very much time for embroidery, but I did manage to get to the potluck, so it was great to catch up with my pals. Did I mention, I think last week's Scuttlebutt, I mentioned I was going to a Polish festival type of thing. I think the case may have been slightly overstated or I misinterpreted from what I saw on Facebook. It was kind of more like, hey, on Saturday we're having like 4 tables in the Polish hall and we're selling goodies. So there was like a lineup for the Polish sausage that was like 30, 40 people long. My dad, very impatient. He was like, no, I'm not getting sausage. I'm not waiting in line. And then he looked over. He's very particular with pierogies and borscht and stuff. So they had a list of what the ingredients were. He decided he didn't like any of the 7 options of pierogies, so or cabbage rolls. But we got some baked goods. I got a gingerbread cake. This is the Polish Hall in Victoria, BC. And my dad got poppy seed roll, and then we each tried a bit of the other. He hated the gingerbread cake. I loved it. The poppy seed roll, it was okay, but like I was expecting it to be sweeter, but my dad absolutely loved it. So, we each got something we liked. I think they do like food sales a lot more in the summer. So, like, I don't think they've done it for a couple of at least a month or something. So that it was people were stocking up, right? So it was super busy in there. Whereas I think if you went on any given summer Saturday, it's probably a lot more chill without lineups. So, anyways, that was cool. And then we had a drive around because I had a vague idea where it was, sort of off to the side of downtown Victoria, but I wasn't entirely sure. So my car is one of the ones where you can, well, I guess most new cars now have the thing where you connect your phone and you can use Google Maps. It brings it up on the screen. So, anyways, Google Maps gave a route kind of roughly parallel but offset from the route I would have normally taken to get to downtown Victoria. But it was one of those things where I really only needed it for the last 5 minutes, but it's a pain in the ass to start the search midway when you're driving. So from Langford, I just had it punched in. But anyways, got to see some parts of town that my dad has never seen and I haven't seen in a while. So that was kind of cool. And we even drove by the Parliament. Well, it's not Parliament. It's the BC Legislature building. Um, so that was kind of fun. One of these days, I haven't been in the legislature in ages. Like, last time I was there doing the tourist thing long before I lived here, like 20 years before I lived here, with my mom, actually. We did like a guided tour and saw some of the stained glass and stuff inside. But maybe in the new year I'll do that. And I think you can kind of do self-guided tours, which would mean that it's fine to like go in there and sit down with a sketchbook and draw things. So maybe that'll be a fun thing to do in the new year. Um, the exhibition at the time well, when you're seeing this, the exhibition is over. I did post on YouTube a quick tour. People were talking in the background and whatnot, and I didn't have my like lav mic thing, so I was going to I recorded. I was going to do a voiceover, and I was lazy or busy, so I just slapped some like classical music on and whatnot. But there is a video tour of the exhibition. It was small, but it was good. Um, Popped in on Tuesday a few days ago, and no red dots, which kind of expected. Like there was actually one news article in the local paper. One of our classmates, I guess, had a contact with the local paper, so they did do a little profile. They interviewed Sylvia, and then they interviewed our instructor, so that was pretty cool. But other than that, there was no press coverage, and the Arts Council did send it out on their email blast, but it was wasn't really impromptu. We knew it was happening, but in terms of organizing and promotion and stuff, it was kind of low key. So, anyways, I kind of wasn't expecting any sales. I knew it, but it is what it is. I think next year, well, I mean, be trying to sell paintings, including even here, but I do have a feeling that the kind of work I do, probably I'm going to have to look at getting stuff into galleries in other cities, um, which is, I mean, eventually all painters have to do that, right? It's very rare, unless you happen to live in Paris or London, like you're probably not earning a living just from exhibiting where you live. But anyway, so that was cool. So by the time this is posted, I will have gone and fetched Ricky and brought him home. Um, but anyways, so there was that. Speaking of exhibitions, not one I have my work in, but I went down on Wednesday to the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria and saw what was on show there. I haven't been there since they had the Warhol exhibit about 6 or 7 months ago. And anyways, so they had one room that had it was like 8 or 10 of, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but Albrecht Dürer, D-U with the umlaut. I'm just gonna put it on the screen. You know, a German printmaker from 500 years ago. So, I mean, I've seen his stuff, pictures of it. I enjoy it and whatnot. I don't think I've seen any of his stuff in person before that I can recall. Maybe once. Because when I used to live in Vancouver, I know they did have certain exhibits where they'd like pull stuff from Vancouver Art Gallery's um, archives, and sometimes you would see, you know, like they would have Picasso's or whatever, like, and very old. So I may have seen one small print from Dürer at some point before, but to be in a room with like a bunch of them was quite a extraordinary. And I mean, I do a little bit of printmaking. I've done. Does it show? I don't know. Well, that's a monotype. I don't know if it's in the screen. If not, then I'll post a photo because I know on my Scuttlebutt #1 that was there in the background. But that is a monotype with Shin technique done on a press, like acrylic plexiglass plate, oil-based inks, and incorporating Shin with what had been done previously with a lift print. Anyway, I have a whole video about my monotypes, although I don't know if I showed these ones in that. I mean, it was just shown later ones. But I've also done, well, the first Scuttlebutt of a couple weeks ago, I showed you one of my lino cuts. So anyways, I know a little bit about like carving and relief printing, but to see just how tiny Durer's prints were, even the lino cuts, like they're really not, they're not bigger than letter size, and you see how crazy detailed they are. And I mean, I kind of look and go like, wow. I mean, how sharp were the dude's tools? Because it's like little things like that. If you're a printmaker, you go, holy crap. And woodcut engraving is a bitch. Like, it is a beast to do. It's hard to carve. It's hard on your hands. I mean, I find even some lino is kind of hard on my joints because you're holding, let alone actually doing it into wood. And to get that fine level of detail and stuff, it's like, wow. Well, I mean, this is why we still talk about the dude's prints at 500 years later. And then he had some engravings that were, again, crazy amount of detail, and they're barely bigger than a playing card. And wow. Anyways, I do have a little bit of haul today, um, including some catalog stuff with prints or reproductions of his prints. So we'll talk about that then. But yeah, that room was like, wow. Like, I kind of knew it was in there, but until you see it, it's amazing. So anyways, I think that exhibition runs for a while. Hey, Pyra, when you're editing, put the dates on the screen. But if you're in the Victoria area, do go check it out. If you're not in the Victoria area, you know, if you have a chance to see Durer's prints, definitely do. They're amazing. And there's like, what else? There was a installation in the back from a local or Vancouver-based artist. It was kind of interesting. Not really my vibe. I'm not an installation art girl. Um, so then they have some stuff from the AGGV's archives. Like, they have quite a lot of Asian art and even antiquities. So they have one exhibition room with some stuff pulled from the archives and the collections. And I mean, there's like pieces of Chinese jade that's was carved 5,000 years ago. I think, yeah, they have a couple. They're definitely a couple thousand years old, if not older. Um, so I didn't go look at that this time because it's the same exhibit that was there 6 months ago. So I'm like, okay, I was a little rushed. I'm like, I've seen this hall, but they also had a room that was um, Chinese and Japanese ink paintings, on the scrolls. So they had a couple of those were 500 years old as well. Um, and as well as some more, contemporary, but I don't think there was anything that would be really contemporary there. I think they made the latest. I think they had some stuff into the 1800s, so still over 100 years old, maybe 1930s. I didn't look that closely at the dates, but a lot of old work, and again from the collection. So that was nice to see. And then they had, I'm going to forget the name of um, the exhibit. I think it was a view from here, maybe is what they call it. But and they kind of have that, I think, as an ongoing rotating stuff from the collections. So that was Canadian and Indigenous art. So they had like a whole one corner of the room just had like a bunch of Emily Carr paintings stuffed in there. I will say with Emily Carr, I used to always go, oh, who gives a shit? Like I think her stuff was overrated, and it probably is. But I will say a lot of that was based on, seeing it in slideshows in school or seeing reproductions in books. It does not reproduce well. The first time I went to the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria was in, I think, 2015 or 2016, just, about a year, 6 months to a year before I moved here. Um, I decided to be a tourist in Victoria on my own one day, and I went to the AGGV, and they had a huge exhibit of Emily Carr stuff. And I didn't go to see that. I actually went because they had in the back room they had an exhibit of Chinese teapots, um, ranging different styles and different centuries. So I came to see the teapots, but I did walk through um, the gallery to see the Emily Carr stuff, and that kind of changed my mind because when you see it, the colors really glow. And that certain colors will do that. I've seen other stuff. Jimmy Cummings, who did the cover artwork for a couple Skinny Puppy albums, Too Dark Park, I think. When you see what his painting looks like for the Skinny Puppy album, Too Dark Park, if you saw that on the album cover or reproduced, it looks very, it's still interesting, but it looks very dark. And I mean, like, in terms of the color, you know, um, dark and kind of grayed out. I knew a guy, actually, a guy who, former member of Skinny Puppy, who, um, of course, knew Jim going back to the 80s. And this guy had the original oil painting for that. He had bought it off of Jimmy, and I saw it in person, and that thing, it almost glowed. Like the colors are so vibrant. I'm like, wow, how come the album cover doesn't look like that? And some of it is just certain between the photography and the reproduction and the printing. There are some colors you just can't print right. There's also years ago when I lived in Vancouver, they had Vancouver Art Gallery had some exhibit that was Van Gogh and Paul Gauguin, and there was some, I forget now the name of the painting, but there was a Gauguin, and it was like the ocean surf, and it was this intense aqua turquoise that again, it was like it glowed, and I was like, oh man, that's so amazing. And I got it. I'm buying a print of this. Go into the gallery shop, they had a print of it, but it it was like slate blue in the print. It was messed up, man. I'm just kind of looking around because I think, like, I have seen things printed that actually printed the correct shade of turquoise green, but it didn't, the reproductions, like, I don't know, the color calibration or something was off. Anyways, my point is sometimes stuff doesn't work out. I think when I was at that AGGV show, a decade ago, and I was suddenly impressed by Emily Carr's painting. Like, wow, I've never seen them look like this. I was like, I'm gonna buy a book of her stuff from the gift shop to look at. And then I then get it home, or I'm on the. I lived in Vancouver, so I was like taking the ferry back, and I opened the book up and I looked at it, I was like, oh, this looks like shit. It's like they did not get it right when they reproduced these. And it's like, did you not hold up, mind you, who knows where it's being printed right? The odds of somebody going and double checking, did we get the proof print, hold it next to the painting, is it the same color? No, go fix it. It's probably somebody in a different city is like, yeah, it looks good enough. Sorry, my laptop is telling me I should be painting right now. Making that little bloop. You have something on the schedule. Yeah, I already painted today. So anyways, I've lost my train of thought. Thank you, laptop. So yeah, it is a thing where sometimes your colors in paint don't, your prints look like crap and they don't quite get that correct shot. So anyways, yeah, so why am I mentioning this? Because I was in and they had like 10 Emily Carr paintings squashed into a corner in this one exhibition hall that had Canadian artwork. And then they had like, when they have one of those fake walls in the middle, the ones that are on wheels so they can make little mini rooms in a gallery. So they had one of those down the middle, and on one side there was some native art, indigenous art, or like contemporary art made by indigenous folks. So, where it's like modern paintings or silk screens or whatnot, not using those motifs. And then on the other side, it was some modernist crap. Sounds awful. It wasn't all crap, but it was like, oh yeah, I've seen that, whatever. And then the back wall, they took a bunch of oil paintings from like the 1800s and early 1900s from the gallery's archives and just like squashed them. I'll put pictures up so you can see what I'm talking about. Where it was just like, it's all going in this one corner, which is kind of interesting. And then that wall was painted like a deep red background, so you kind of walk in the hall and go, "Oh, I'm going straight towards the portrait painting in the back." So, anyways, that was interesting to see. What else? Oh yeah, we had this insane windstorm. Kind of, it's been going on all week. The worst of it was Tuesday night. I was in bed. I got woken up just after midnight. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It is so freaking loud. Went to the bathroom, grabbed my phone. I have a weather app called My Radar. The nice thing with My Radar, I think this is, I think you can have, it's valid anywhere in North America. I don't know if they have like a European version or whatever, but there's a free version, there's a paid version, whatever. I'm cheap, I have the free. But you can zoom in to your neighborhood. Like you just keep zooming in, and the closest you can get it, you can like put a little marker where your house is, and then it'll show like a 4-block radius. So you can, and it works off of the satellites. I actually know it because my dad, he doesn't fly these days, but he does have like his own Cessna, and a bunch of his buddies fly. So his friends from the local flying club rely on this because it's more accurate than, and it also has like a more accurate wind and satellite and cloud cover stuff versus the Weather Network or whatever. So, anyways, I use this app because it was recommended to me via my father. Anyways, I pick it up. I go on to the data screen and I scroll down, and I'll superimpose that on there. You can see, and then gusts up to 110 in my neighborhood. It's like, and I'm just like, oh, well, that's why it's so freaking loud. Anyways, I managed to get back to sleep about an hour later or so. My friend actually said in her neighborhood, she lives about 20 minutes away, she got woken up at 3 a.m. by the noise. I obviously, by that point, I was in a deep sleep, or my brain at that point knew what the howling was, so I was like, well, whatever. I don't have any tall trees by my house. None that would hit my house. There's others in the neighborhood, but so we had that. Oh, and on Monday I was filming one of my paint with Pyra, the one that I'm gonna post on cue the Jeopardy theme. Let me think about it. I think it's not episode 3 for Official Judge, so it's the one that's gonna go live on Christmas Eve morning on like next Wednesday. Um, and I'm like filming it on Monday afternoon, and the power, it was windy, but it wasn't that bad, I didn't think. Power goes out in the middle of the filming. Of course, I'm filming on my phone, right? So I keep talking because it went out and it came back on a minute later, and it went out again. I was expected to come back on shortly, so I just like talked through whatever, and I had some daylight, so I mean it was kind of dim, but I just kind of made a joke about it. And then, I think I was still talking. So I think if you watch this, you know that I don't shut up, right? Um, so like 5 or 10 minutes later, then the lights came back on. So I was like, oh, I can go back to, anyways, I was doing the gridding on Official Judge. That's one. I won't show you the in progress when we get to the whips thing, because that's for the Paint with Pyra video series, but that's what I was doing. So there was a power outage when I was filming. So next Wednesday you can see it and kind of point and laugh. So yeah, and then anyways, so that's a very long-winded what have I been up to this week. Let's move on to whips. Of course, I had, well, I was gonna say the Noah's Archipelago. Noah's Archipelago as a whole is a whip, but the actual cartoons, those are finishes. So anyways, I will insert, first of all, while I was working on creating Official Judge, that'll be on the Paint with Pyra thing, but I also, in the same day, I did the grids and under like the outline drawing for 2 other paintings. One is Noah's Clown Dance, so that will be going there. And that one, then the next step is I'm going to do a bunch of paint pen work in the background, much of which will be covered up in future layers of paint, but I want it to show through in some areas. What I will show, and not just in photos because it's small enough that I can grab it, is actually something that, so Art Gallery of Greater Victoria twice a year they have a art rentals and sales office. And then they have twice a year, like for the art rentals and sales. I think that's, don't call them, they'll call you, if they want to take your work and offer it for sale to their patrons or whatnot, But twice a year you can submit work for their small works show and sale. So there's a summer one, there's a winter one. The winter one is on right now, so I did go and have a look and sort of take note about what sold. I believe so far the show's been up for a month, and there were 7 landscapes that have sold. Most of those were a couple of them were more abstracted. One was quite abstract and stylized. And then I think there were 3 or 4 portraits, or I should say figurative work. I don't know if it was intended as, I don't think it was intended so much as portraits of the person, rather that it's figurative work. I know that kind of sounds like a distinction without a difference, but so I had a look at that, and then and then there were 2 kind of abstract portraits of cats that someone bought, and they were match set. So that show is still on for another month. So if you're in the Victoria area, do go and have a look, because I mean that is a great place to buy art. Anyways, so they have size limits. You can submit 5 works for each show. I don't think I'm going to have any, well, I say this, I might actually have some stuff finished and ready to go for the summer one, except I think the application is in March, so maybe I wouldn't yet, but definitely in September or October, August, September, wherever they have that opening, submissions opening, I will be trying to get some work into next year's winter sale. So, uh, and that'll be paintings that involve my characters. So this is an in progress shot. If I hold this in front of my head, I think that should sort of be all in focus. So I gridded. I don't know how well that shows up, but gridded, transferred the drawing, and now what I've done is I've taken acrylic paint pens and I've done some stuff in complementary colors. So this is an Amazon box, so kind of brownish, that has kind of like an orange tone. So I did blues for that because that'll mostly be covered up, but where it shows through, it's going to contrast. This is Noah Thorson's daughter Ursula from my Noah's Archipelago. And this is actually taken from one of the comics in the summer, where Noah shows her she has this box at the beginning of August, and she's refusing to open it because she's like, that has homework books, doesn't it? And he's like, I don't know, you'll have to open it. She doesn't want to open it because she knows that it's freaking math books and she's going to ruin the last month of her summer. He just leaves it with a pair of scissors on it and says, well, if you want to open it. And he tries to convince her that in the world of Noah's Archipelago, I call it Dane bricks, but, Lego. And she loves Lego. Pardon me, Dane bricks. Because, you don't want to do the trademark thing. Anyways, so he puts it down next to her and she's like trying to resist, but there's this one cartoon where she's like leaning over looking at this Amazon box. So that's what this is. So I mean, Ursula's kind of a redhead, so I've got blue undertones for contrast. She's gonna be wearing a green shirt, blue jeans. Anyways, so there's some texture in this, and then the next step will be I'll paint like the background that goes behind the figures. Once that's ready, then I'll probably start with the box. So basically work back to front, right? Well, I guess I'd do the carpet before I do the figures in the box. So, or the figure in the box. So anyways, that's where we're at with that. But this kind of work is what I'm going to be doing on that Noah's Clown Dance as well. Particularly in the background, where it's more likely that I'll kind of leave holes in the background so that this shows through. So anyways, that's my main work in progress for this current week, because, at the time of filming, I've got one more potluck, and then I joined my church choir, so I'm practicing songs. Unfortunately, it's mostly Christmas songs. I already know. It's just a couple where I have to refresh, like, what's the third verse of Hark the Herald Angels Sing. But I've been listening to the songs and singing along. Like, I have a Spotify playlist with the next couple weeks stuff that I listen to when I'm driving and sing along and whatnot. And then I've got, I'm in the Saturday Vigil Mass choir, so I have couple not really performances, a couple masses that I'm singing at, plus choir practice on Monday. And then of course it's Christmas. Christmas at my house is kind of a little bit laid back because here on the island it's really just it's me and my dad. I have a nephew on the lower mainland, but he's not coming over here. He's, he'll be over there with his mom's side of the family and his girlfriend and whatnot. And then my brother's in Alberta, and then the rest of my family is scattered across the country, as far as New Brunswick, as close as Vancouver, right? So really the big thing is all the stuff that comes before Christmas and then Christmas Mass. Like I'm singing at the children's pageant Mass is when my group does the music on Christmas Eve. So, like, Dad and we're gonna have lunch on Christmas Eve. We're grilling steak, and I'll make like mustard dill potatoes, something like that, in a salad. And hopefully I'll have time to bake cookies the day before. That would be kind of nice. And then on Christmas Day, he's doing a turkey, but he got like a small turkey because I'm not a big fan of turkey. I'll eat some of the breast, but he will have turkey up the yin yang and in the freezer for, even though it's a small turkey, he's going to have plenty of leftovers for like a week. And that's kind of it, right? So, anyways, the point is I should be able to get a whole bunch of painting done next week. We'll see though. But it's kind of the lead up to Christmas. All my activities have been in the lead up to. So tomorrow's kind of the last thing other than choir practice on Monday and then Christmas Eve. So means I get to go back to setting a schedule and making some progress on some paintings. Anyway, so finishes. Now, here's the well, there's only 2 Noah's Archipelago comics so far this week. Did I have one on Saturday? I don't remember. Maybe there was one on from last Saturday. I would have to look it up. I might have missed last Saturday's. I think I did miss last Saturday's. Anyways, so couple comics. When I finish this video, I got to do the Friday morning Noah's Archipelago. So I guess those will show next week or whatever. But if you go to the Noah's Archipelago Facebook page, is where it's always most up to date. That's the other thing I have to do after Christmas is I have to update that website because I got lazy on posting the comics on the website. Oh my God. And I am a few months behind on it. Other than my Tuesday Noah's Diary, those get posted straight to the website. So those are up to date, but the comics aren't. So anyways, I have to get that up to date. Speaking of Noah's Diary, this week he was concerned about the argument that his mother and Ursula have with his wife, where the wife is kind of, she's a city girl and, polar bears are endangered and we need to protect them and whatnot. Whereas Noah's mother grew up in Greenland and then his grandfather was killed by a polar bear in like northern Manitoba. And so Granny Thorson hates polar bears and has sworn vengeance upon all of them and thinks we need to nuke the North Pole. And it's a ridiculous storyline. But, that's the point of the comic. So anyways, in Noah's Diary, he's worried about this whole polar bear thing and how it's going to mess with Christmas. So then I did this comic, or this illustration for that, of Noah being caught in the middle between the wife and the mother. Advent reels, I still haven't gotten back on the bandwagon. What I've started doing is the ones that I have blue lines for in the book that I haven't done reels for, that are from like when I should have done it last week. I'm just gonna, when I have time, just do the fine liner marker inking. And I don't know, maybe on Saturday or Sunday I'll get back on the wagon for the last few days. And I am going to, in the same book, try and do like 12 Days of Christmas. Not necessarily the stuff from the song, but, there was that traditional 12th night and it like was sailing the apple trees and stuff. I think is supposed to happen on the 6th night of Christmas or something like that after Christmas. So I'll get that. I'll try and get back on track for those. And, just fill in the missing ones when I can. And then the same book basically has enough pages to do 3 years worth of Advent cartoons. So, there won't be a sketchbook tour of that until 2028. 2025, 2020. Well, I guess the end of 2027, but I do want to fill them in. So, previous finishes. I think I said I was going to show this last week, and then I got sidetracked because I was talking about vote for Myles. Oh, and this is the other thing. I hope that this take of me sitting in like my black and pink plaid shirt is the one that you're seeing, because the last 2 weeks for Scuttlebutt, I had to film it twice because there was some sort of the first one I did when I was sitting here, I talked for like 48 minutes and then I went to edit it and there was no sound because the mic, I thought it was on, but it apparently wasn't. Now I did check my audio on my lav mic just before I hit record and sat down, and so it looked like it's fine. So I think that's good. And then last week it wasn't the technical stuff. I screwed up in like setting up the camera, so it was like chopping me off at like halfway through my eyeballs, and then you saw, like, nobody needs to see my belly, but like the belly was in glorious focus, and then the top of my head was chopped off. So then I filmed it again. So hopefully third week is the charm, and I just have the one take and we're golden. I guess we'll find out. I guess we'll find out when I shut up, right, and go check the footage. But anyways, last week I talked about vote for Myles as my previous finish. Well, here's Myles's dad. And I think I have a video. When I had this at the Cowichan exhibition, he won first place for the cartoon class in the fine arts division. Anyways, I think I did do like a scroll up and down with the ribbons. So I will, if I might have even inserted that in the last week's video where I was talking about his kid Myles, because that was the previous finish. I think I ended up just posting photos of the other painting, but we'll talk a bit about this. So I may have mentioned before, or I may not, but these guys, obviously with the ears and the whiskers, you can tell they belong to the Ricky B. Rat world. So Myles is, his mom is a rat. She is Ricky's girlfriend's wine aunt Belinda's kid. Belinda can't hold her booze and can't read a map and drives regardless of both of those conditions. So and then you have the rats in Ratsville, and then like an hour's drive away, there's Mouseland. You cross the canyon, and Mouseland is in a different state, like Mouseland versus Ratland. Anyways, it's a whole thing. Anyways, Belinda got drunk one fine St. Paddy's Day 28 years ago, and the next morning she woke up in bed next to Larry. So Larry was a lot younger then, obviously. And at that point, he was a used car salesman who was just getting promoted to general manager of the dealership he worked at. Well, along the way, Larry ended up forging his own empire of, at first, used car dealerships. Now he owns regular dealerships. He's a little bit like, for those of you familiar with Jimmy Pattison here in Canada, in Western Canada. So Larry's a little bit like Jimmy. Although I don't think Jimmy has 8 kids by 7 different baby mamas like Larry does. Anyways, so Belinda got knocked up by a mouse. And, mice and rats don't get along so well, and obviously there's a size differential between them and whatnot. It was decided that Myles would be raised by his father, or rather his father's mother, Grandma M, over in Mouseland, because then he could be the big hulking bully over there as opposed to being bullied in Ratsville. But anyways, this is a little ad I drew for Larry's empire. He always struck me as, the kind of local TV commercials you'd see on the local news. It's like, come on down. Anyway, so come on down, see Crazy Larry, the original Mouseland used car czar. So that's Larry. This is on Bristol board. The underdrawing is blue, non-photo blue pencil. And then he was, the inking was done with a dip pen and Speedball, what is it, Ultra Black or whatever the Speedball India ink is. So there you go, Larry. That is a previous finish. And let me carefully put that down under the table. So, haul. Whoops. Squeaking my chair and bumping up against. So, ran around a couple different places. I wanted to get, when I was in Victoria the other day on Wednesday, there's nowhere in my town where you can buy like art magazines. So, so I had to go to Bolin Books down there. I think if I went up to Nanaimo, I think the chapters at Woodgrove also stocks, like, and they may actually have, there were a couple I wasn't able, were not able, they were, sorry. I wasn't able to find High Fructose magazine. I wasn't able to find Juxtapose. So, I mean, The next week is going to be insane anywhere near a shopping center, so I will not be trying to go up to Nanaimo to find them. But maybe a few days after Christmas, when the first Boxing Day madness kind of passes, I may go up for that. Because, I mentioned before, well, I think last week last week I was showing my book list. So kind of going like, well, if I want to be more serious about painting, I guess I need to figure out what's kind of going on. Not that I'm going to chase trends, I have my own thing, but just in order to talk about my work in relation to what's trendy, like I am against this, I am similar to, whatever. So art forum. This one I have to look because some of the art magazines are crazy expensive, but oh dear Lord, $25. I saw something. I'm not sure how often Art Forum publishes. Well, it says November, so monthly, but maybe it's every other month because I swear on their website, um, I think the subscription is like $65 US for a year, and the cover price is $20 US per year. Sometimes you can see up at the front on the masthead, they say how often they publish. Anyways, I'd also have to check out some of the US magazines aren't shipping subscriptions to Canada right now because of the tariffs and all that sort of stuff. I know High Fructose right now, you Canadians cannot get a subscription to. There's certain galleries that sell it or whatnot, so you could order it in Canada through third parties. And I think that's why probably Chapters would have it, but Art Forum doesn't say that. It just lists that. Now, it may be that if I click through, credit card in hand, ready to subscribe, that when I got to the thing, it would tell me, I didn't have a valid address or something. Because sometimes they'll do that where they won't say, we don't ship to Canada right now, or temporarily suspended or whatnot, but it'll just be that it won't accept a Canadian postal code as opposed to US zip code. So I don't know. But Art Forum, and they've got their website and whatnot, but interviews, all that sort of stuff. I think, well, I was going to say, I think we're all familiar with Art Forum, but actually that's kind of making a huge assumption. Oh, hey. Okay. What was I saying earlier about Gauguin and reproductions? That sometimes you can get that color, but you have to not be an idiot about it. That is the turquoise, very close to the turquoise I was talking about Gauguin, in the Gauguin painting. And it's printed just frickin' fine in this advertisement for Schulkopf Gallery, and the artist is John Moran, communing with the Colossal. So, okay, thank you, John Moran, and thank you, Art Forum, for proving my point. If you know what you're doing and you pay attention to your color matching on your proofs, you can get the color to look correct. Now, the Gauguin piece is even a little bright. Actually, it's even almost more like that. It's kind of a whitish tone, but there are colors in this ad that were in the Gauguin painting that I was talking about, but then the reproduction was almost more like the slate blue. It's like, you guys weren't even close. Anyways, I am ranting about things from a gallery gift shop from 10 years ago, but it annoys me. It annoys me. You're not doing your job properly. And I know because, once upon a time, in the long, long ago, I wrote for Discorder magazine out of CITR Radio in Vancouver. I wrote for Discorder off and on for 13, 14 years. I was their production manager at one point for a couple years in the mid 2000s. Now, we printed on newsprint. So you're printing on newsprint. It's not white. It's off-white. It's kind of that grayish, beigeish color. The print quality is not going to be good on newsprint. You're not going to have as high resolution. This is an art magazine that's in Canada is $25 a copy. Like, it's so you're not like this. These guys care about print quality. Is my point. Um, I mean, we cared about print quality, but we also cared about budget. You know. So there's that. Back in my Maclu years, I did all my own graphic design, my own album covers, my own promotional materials, and I would get stuff printed at like Club Card and whatnot. So and Club Card is excellent, by the way. Like they're amazing. But my point is like, well, I can't say that I was paid as a print designer, you know, because some people are, and then they're like really nitpicky about print. I do have some level of background in that. So when I see it done badly, oh. Anyways. So yeah, that's why I'm still complaining about the Gauguin print. I wasn't, or Gauguin poster. You can't even really call it a print proper. It wasn't like a giclée or whatever. But you know, the thing that was supposed to be the painting that I really loved, that wasn't even close to the real color, just still pisses me off all these years later, because there's no excuse for it. You can get that color. We just saw it. You can absolutely print that shade of turquoise aqua. But you have to bother to do your proof and check that it's kind of in the ballpark. Anyways, whatever. Well, it's just like I often see hot pinks screwed up in print. Look at how vibrant that is. This is an ad for Princeton University Art Museum. You can get that shade of vibrant print in print. You can absolutely do it. I see it screwed up a lot. Anyways, so if you have competent graphic designers who actually proof things properly and check, yes, you can absolutely get amazing print quality. There's that same turquoise again. Anyways, I am ranting. I didn't buy Art Forum to rant about the print quality. I bought it to actually read it, but that was one of the things I grabbed. I also grabbed Border Crossings. Border Crossings, by the way, is a magazine out of Winnipeg, here in Canada. I'm definitely getting a subscription to Border Crossings. I think they only publish 3 times a year. Yeah, $15 and 3 or 4 times. But it's Canadian and it's art news and stuff like that. There's a bunch, I think, of magazines about art that are kind of toast these days. Galleries West, I think, just went under a couple years ago now, or a couple months ago, pardon me. Years, months, same thing. It feels like it's been a long time since August. But I was just looking that up actually earlier today, and Galleries West, I think the dude had been running it for like 20 years, and he's retiring, and it kind of, I don't think anybody wanted to take it on because it's kind of a labor of love type of thing rather than a real money maker. So he definitely wasn't able to find a buyer. But anyways, I went to their website, and the website for now is still there. But yeah, so Galleries West is toast. There is some other art publication and stuff. I mean, yeah. Anyways, so for more Canadian centered, of course, one of my challenges right now, like I said, is to kind of find where my work fits into the current art world. So doing a little bit of reading kind of be useful. I mentioned, for the books I mentioned last week, the one that I'm working on the most, I am reading a little bit of Daily Rituals most days. So I'm like, I don't know, 15 pages in or something, just a little bit. But I'm going through A Life in the Arts, and that's a lot of journaling questions. Right now, I'm just going with the questions that he actually has in the book, but he kind of says in the intro, like, don't pick my questions, make your own based on what's going on in your life. I'm like, yeah, well, it's kind of easiest to do a pass through, and it's probably going to take me who knows how long, but go through, and like one of them is like questions about, are there Do you have everything? Do you have all the knowledge you need to pursue a career in the arts? And one of the things I came up with is like, um, for certain things, like for making the art, sure. For promoting the art, yeah, I know a little bit of social media marketing. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, like um, more than 15 years ago, no, about 15 years, 15 to 17 years ago, um, 15 to 16 years ago, I had a part-time gig as a I think my business card said director of A&R, but it was kind of a joke. I worked for like my boss was kind of a one-man record label and management company, and then I was assisting him. So, but part of my job was promotion and public relations. I mean, I honestly, in retrospect, I was terrible at it. um, or rather, I was good at it for the bands on our roster that did it themselves, where I just had to go like, hey, do you want to do a profile of so-so? Oh yeah, I met him at Kinetic Festival. He's a great guy. Sure. Like, oh, good. Now we're going to get a PR thing. But really, I kind of, I sent one email. But if if it hadn't been for the dude in the actual band doing his own legwork, nobody was answering my emails when I talked about other bands that we dealt with that didn't do that kind of legwork. But anyways, so I have a little bit of knowledge about PR and promotions. I am terrible at it. So I know that's an area I need to expand. But another one is just like, okay, writing about my art. I think I was that last week's blog post. I think it was on theme. But like so far, I've kind of come, well, by definition, I'm a contemporary painter because I'm alive right now. And contemporary paint is like, was it made after like 1970, 1975? Like, was it made in the last 50 years? Yes. Then it's contemporary by definition. And then kind of going like, I guess my work would kind of be considered lowbrow, which, hey, I'm cool with that. Um, I'm a lowbrow girl in general. But then a lot of lowbrow art now is doing very well in the gallery scene and whatnot. I mean, Cause, Jeff Koons is lowbrow. I mean, he's lowbrow, but he's exhibited in like the Tate and big galleries like that. So that's cool. But then it's just kind of like, and I do figurative. I'm not a landscape painter. There may be landscape elements in the background, but basically, if there's a person or if there's a person in your thing, you're a figurative artist, even no matter what's in the background, how small well, I guess if your landscape is this big and your person's that big, then you're a landscape painter. But proportionally, I'm definitely, I do figurative work. I do. I wouldn't go so far. I've done. I mean, the Ricky Still Life is relatively realistic in style, representational. But in terms of like how to define so that somebody, I mean, usually this stuff goes with also sending JPEGs of your work, right? Uh, but in terms of trying to figure out how do I write an artist statement, how do I write I know how to write a CV. Um, I'm gonna have some issues in figuring out how to update it to make sense. Because the CV should have all your creative stuff, but your style, like all the stuff I did with Maclu or podcasting, like how do you put that in so it makes sense in a visual arts CV? Anyways, these are problems for me to deal with later. While I was at Bolin, I looked in the art section. I found a couple books because I was there for the magazines, but I did find a couple other things. Now, this grabbed my attention. Spring Unfurled by Angela Harding. And there's a lovely little copper foil thing. She got a real publishing company to put this out. Sphere. On the inside. She's got a series of these. She's done a number of books. It's an imprint of Little Brown, so that's a fairly well-known publishing company. Printed in Italy. Anyways, so she's a printmaker, um, and these look like multi-layer prints. I don't know, or maybe they may be lino cut and silkscreen. So I think she's using silkscreen for the background color blocks, and then lino for the line work on top. And then she has a little blurb. So perhaps the most beautiful song of our local birds is that of the skylark. Growing up in Shropshire on the border of Wales, the sound of skylarks in the hills was a common one. So she has a little blurb about that goes with each print. But it's just like some memories, and this one is the spring one. So some spring memories, and there'll be like a little paragraph and an illustration. And um, and then she has some other ones as well that kind of are very nature based. So this is interesting because I'm working on, I mean, not that I need another book project, right? Because I got to finish, I've got a Ricky graphic novel, I've got the Noah's Archipelago anthology, and that's just the first one. I have enough comics to probably do like 4 or 5 anthologies. Um, and then I have some ideas about graphic novels for Noah, short story books. Anyways, I'm kind of full, but this intrigued me as something that obviously I don't do nature work so much, but it would be kind of an interesting idea to have like a picture on one side and a writing on the other, and just do a little cute little book, you know. Um, Actually, there's a project that I'm doing for Myles. And if I'll try and remember, hey Pyra, when you're editing, put a link in there. But I was doing like Myles Marav's Pursuit of Happiness. It was like an A to Z. It was kind of based off of Struflus's what do you call it, alphabet superset project. Um, so doing illustrations, and then I was thinking, you know, related to words beginning with each letter of the alphabet, and I have a vague idea about a storyline to go with it and whatnot, right? So, anyways, I was kind of thinking about doing something along the lines of that with Myles. This, of course, is in full color. Full color is very expensive to print. Now, you know, Little Brown, those guys can get the volume, you know. So I would probably do like a black and white. But anyways, it's a charming little book. I couldn't resist it. It was only like 20 bucks Canadian. It's like 15 US. So anyways, I brought it because I do love prints, even though right now I haven't been doing any printmaking in months. And I haven't done any lino in a year. But I like the idea of the book, so I grabbed that to look through for inspiration. And then I'm a sucker for David Hockney. This is his My Window book. And I was just looking at this. I think if I can just flip through, so I haven't read per se. But it sounds like what he was saying. I started on the iPhone in 2009, and the great advantage in this medium is it's backlit, and I could draw in the dark. So he started doing like views out of his window with like his finger on his iPhone, and then later he got an iPad and a stylus and stuff, so they get more detailed, but they're all just views out the window. And that was another sort of thing where it's like really interesting, the possibilities of a little book like this. Now, of course, David Hockney, obviously very well known, and this is put out by Taschen as well. So talk about, you know, it's full color. Did I show? I don't know. Here's a random. So they also can do volume versus if you're self-publishing. Full color is like crazy expensive, and printing costs and all that. But that's also another sort of little inspiration piece. And I have loved David Hockney's work going back to the 90s when I was first exposed to it. So, yeah. So, I'm a sucker for little books like that. Now, that was when I was at Bolin. Then when I went to ADGV after going through, I did go in the gift shop. So first of all, I found 3 artist cards. Um, this one, and if they don't turn up super well, I mean, because these are small, I know with the bigger stuff from previous videos, when I hold it up, it usually looks okay. If these don't look good, I'll just impose the image on top. But this is by Natasha Sawyer, Soyer, and the painting title that this is taken from is Broken Physalis. Um, so she's kind of doing something. There's quite a few artists now who are doing where they're kind of using old masters techniques, but more contemporary painting kind of iconography and whatnot. So it's a little bit, what's the guy's name? Mark Ryden or something does. Although Ryden's style, like the technique is similar, but Ryden's style is very different. So, anyways, that jumped out at me. And then this one with our mermaids. That is Linny D. Vine, like the letter D as a middle initial and then Vine last name. And she is from somewhere in the Victoria era, Southern Island. And she kind of does these sort of nature but mythological type of stuff as well. So that was one that grabbed my eye as well. I think Natasha Sawyer doesn't say where she lives, but I mean it's the Victoria Art Gallery, so presumably she's somewhere on the island or on the Gulf Islands, because I think that's a requirement to have your art cards in there. And then this one is Heron Vakil, Vakil, sorted art cards. I think I have another one by this dude. I think it's a dude, Heron. Maybe it's a chick. I don't know. This artist. Style is similar to an art card I got a few years ago at the AGGV. Only that one's like a kind of almost like a mechanical fish type of thing, but similar kind of line work to these stringed instruments. So, anyways, that is another. And then I mentioned about Dürer. So they have a little section there which is like catalogs for previous shows. So this is one that says Albrecht Dürer on the eve of the Reformation, the graphic art of Albrecht Dürer from the collection of the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria. And also it's skinny and it was $12 because it's probably, I would have, by the way it looks in the print, 1993. So I guess if you account for inflation, this was overpriced at the time, as catalogs tend to be. But now inflation has blasted by, and it's like, oh, $12, I'm getting that for sure. So there are some reproductions. This one is one of the ones I was talking about. This etching is super detailed. The actual is, like that big. The actual is like the size of a playing card, basically. So, and there's write up about it and whatnot. So it's pretty cool to then have like detailed pieces from that. And there's an essay and whatnot, which I have not had a chance to read yet. And then similarly, and let me guess, this is probably going to be from the exact same thing, collection. German 16th century prints. Oh, we have a discrepancy. Inside the front cover, they have written $5 in pencil. The back thing, $8.95. Anyways, whatever. Still cheaper than a lot of these. 1983. Ooh, this is even older. There are only a couple copies of these left, and then they had like bigger, fatter, full color exhibition catalogs. They're like $70, $80. But those are ones I didn't care about. So I'm guessing some of this has yours, but they had a print that had a bunch of stuff. Um, that was German, not just Dürer. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see these old kind of catalogs. Um, you know, I think the angel appearing to Joachim was actually in the exhibition I saw this time. Provenance, no, unknown. So, anyways, so now I have a couple old exhibition catalogs, and because these are wood block prints, they're black and white anyways, right? So it doesn't matter. Um, but I have these for reference and study as well. Um, there was a book that was the exhibition copy, so they didn't have any for sale, called Dürer's Journeys, and it's a coffee table book. Um, they didn't have any in the gift shop. I looked on Amazon. Amazon didn't know what I was talking about. I looked on eBay. It's an $80 US book to try and get a copy, plus like $10 or $20 shipping. So, anyways, oh well. But I have these for now. So what have I been watching this week or reading? Well, like I said, I've been working my way through A Life in the Arts, and I've been reading Daily Rituals. In terms of watching, oh, frick, I don't know. Probably nothing I want to admit to. That's not that bad, actually. My watching habits aren't that bad, except for I do watch some obnoxious, rude comedy podcasts. Um, I've been watching that Escape from Rural France, dude. I've been watching Catherine Kay from Catnip and her like travels to various Disney parks. I'm watching actually a lot of her channel, Ellie Dashwood. I don't, obviously not her real name because that's the name of a character in one of Jane Austen's books, but some of her stuff talking about that. Um, and then like Bob Ross, listening to some classical music, symphonies, types of things in the morning. So, uh, yeah, that's kind of basically. Oh, I did go on a bender watching stuff about South Park. Like not South Park, because I do have DVDs and whatnot, but like guys, like Zoomer kids trying to analyze South Park and they don't get the references. Like one was the guy was talking about the episode they did about Britney Spears and like how the media hounds her and whatnot, and or hounded her. This obviously it's an old episode, and he referred to things as like obscure references, and he was talking about the Shirley Jackson short story The Lottery, and then people in the comments are going like, WTF, dude, like we every kid in high school has to read that short story. Well, clearly not every kid, because he didn't know what it was about, but like um anyways, that was kind of fun to watch that. And the youngins talking about things that were commonplace when I was a young girl in the 90s, and it's like, oh, talking about ancient history. Anyways, it's kind of funny. So I watched a few of those sorts of shows on several different channels where they're trying to make sense of South Park and couldn't figure out why it was so offensive and all that sort of stuff. It's like, anyways, so that was entertaining as well. And then what's coming up this week? Well, Christmas. Um, so yeah, and hopefully some painting along with the Christmas, but mostly it's going to be Christmas. Like I'm going to try and get some stuff done. I'm going to try and actually have Noah's Archipelago every day next week as well, although I'm kind of acknowledging that right now and for the last few months, Noah's Archipelago has been a little hit and miss on the scheduling. Um, it's supposed to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and sometimes one or two of those days have been missing each week. So I'm going to be trying to get back on the wagon for that come January. But yeah, so I think I've been blathering at you long enough. Hopefully this take took, and I'm not like cut off at the nose, or no audio or something else wrong with the video such that I would have to do it again tomorrow. But thanks for watching and putting up with me, and Merry Christmas. I'll talk at you again soon. Well, of course, there will be another video on Christmas Eve day, but that's one I already filmed, and that's the paint with me, so it's a little different. But anyways, hope you all have a good Christmas if you celebrate. Hope you have a good stat holiday where you don't have to go to work otherwise. And talk at you next weekend. Bye for now.